another really strong feeling I had last night in reading was that, wow, I mean, this, you know, it's like what's been happening in the past just several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there's a big home for this book. I mean, I feel that it's directly, you know, I mean, talk about prophetic, because, I mean, it's acting in parallel moments,
Mm-hmm.
historically over the past 25 years. But it feels like it's completely situated in the Occupy.
Occupy, exactly. Oh,
You know?
there was the evidence. There's been a copy that was down there before the library got busted.
Yeah.
I said, I want my copy that has the OWS.
Yeah. Which in a certain sense can seem like, oh, it's just kind of trivial, these books
Mm-hmm.
were thrown away, whatever. But then, you know, what is the culture that regards the books as garbage?
We're having a protest
You know?
about that.
Yeah.
And David Levi
Yeah.
Strauss and others are,
Mm-hmm.
were, you know, writing to Bloomberg, and we have documentation
Yeah.
of books that were trashed, and also a
And it isn't a fiscal issue.
Right, no,
Yeah.
it's not the fiscal issue at all.
You know, it's like the regard of knowledge as trash.
Mhm.
You know, basically it's trash. It belongs to these people. It's trash. You know?
It's also interesting that one of the places I felt drawn to was the, you know, there's this whole group of Buddhist activists. So we would go down, there's these regular sittings at, this was when we were still at Liberty Plaza. So these, you know, meditating in the middle of the drumming and the, you know, the whole press thing and the tourist scene, and of course the noise of the building going on, and then even ultimately when things were getting a little scary and people were getting busted. So, you know, people being able to find a certain kind of, you know, practice within that. So I also, that feels key to me, you know, in years of you know, storm and drowning around all this difficulty.
Yeah, but it does feel like it feels like something's shifting a little bit. The way that you describe in you know, the very opening of the book, where you know, if you saying you may distract the assassin's energies even a micro inch, it feels like there's this little shift, and that there's and one of the reasons I feel like, oh, this is a book for that sensibility and for, you know, say Ambrose's generation, is that it models a way of letting the world be seen rather than tuning out into what private enterprise we might have, whether that's you know, becoming a success as whatever. You know, it allows it shows the way that the world can be seen. You know?
No, that's part of it. I mean, one of our mottos at Europa, comes a lot from Alan, was, you know, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing these projects for? These creative, you know, sort of utopian and archival, and the writing, of course, and the activism is to, you know, help wake the world up to itself. That was always his, you know, definition. So.
Yeah. You know, I think maybe everybody in the House doesn't know about Allen Ginsberg's role as a kind of political activist, and so that might be illuminating to talk about a little bit. Just,
he'd be so happy. He'd be down there with, you know, bells and whistles. No, I think there's been a strong line in our, you know, in our lineages of just kind of, you know, looking at things, and you know, the crowd was still on the work when I think of Olson's, you know, project, and also the letters he was writing at the end about how Gloucester was just going to the dogs, and then revisioning a kind of, and then also having revisioning another kind of polis.
Right. And then one of the great inheritors of that, Ed Sanders and his investigative poetics, which is a fantastic thing. If you ever figure, oh, I don't have any inspiration, I don't know what to write, you know, pick up on Ed Sanders' investigative poetics.
Which he developed in Europa, actually, and did classes where, you know, even how to down to how you index and organize your file cabinets, and what you keep and don't keep.
And such a fantastic sense of humor with it all.
You keep everything.
Yeah, that's his. So I know there are people here that have been in a class that Paul Hoover's been teaching called The Long Poem. And in my creative reading class, we've been dealing with epic a little bit. People are adapting book 3 of the Iliad to perform next week.
Wow.
And so we've got, you know, a number of, you know, possibilities from the audience, I think, that could come in. So What would people like to ask Anne while she's here with us for the next half hour?
Well, I love in those the Iliad and just, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah?
So how do you feel about the current Occupy movement just in general?
I feel very, very supportive. I think it's going in a lot of directions simultaneously. There, a lot is going on in New York. I've been close to people who are involved with the CUNY, the city university, and huge student protests around tuition and those issues. A lot of faculty joining in, and there are also things planned with more diversity. Or it seemed in the beginning a lot of the attention seemed to be coming from more white privileged folks, so that that became an issue. I was spending a lot of time down at Zuccotti before it was essentially shut down, and the plan now is to take this great site on Canal and 6th Avenue, which is owned by Trinity Church. It turns out Trinity is the third largest landowner in New York, and so there's a letter going out, a petition to the people at Trinity, talking about the the role of the church and the role of this kind of support system. It's a great site. It's of course very close to the Holland Tunnel and very visible. It's an active neighborhood there, and I believe my son was saying it's right across from a police station. So it's very kind, of the Occupy to make it easier on the police. They don't have to spend all this money hauling their stuff around town. Various artist folk have been involved. Laurie Anderson's called meetings at the Penn Club with some of the Occupy folks, and you start to realize it's it's very rhizomic. If you know that sense of the the tuber system, the rhizomic network, the kind of horizontal. This is connected to this, which is connected to that, and it's it's going on, as all over the world to some extent. And then the kinds of and how it was started is this wonderful meme by the Adbusters people. I mean, there's this history is building. There's a story, I think, in the New Yorker about a homeless person or somebody who lost everything came, and his story. There are many, many stories now. There's a whole. It's an epic. It's an epic work. So the view, I think, which I really appreciate, is rather than some of us elders and so on showing up and saying, "Oh, I'll read at your thing and I'll do this for you and I'll do a benefit," they turn it back on you. What are you going to do? You should do your pick your own social activist things that you can do within your community. So, I mean, I'm doing that anyway, and a lot of the Europa community is very, very involved. We'll have an Occupy theme, and using the yellow and black are the colors. Put tents everywhere. But one idea, for example, this is something that might happen. I won't be there this weekend, but for example, the Satyagraha, the filled glass opera, which is a story of Gandhi, and Gandhi going to South Africa as a young man and very involved with the apartheid situation there of people from India living in South Africa and joining, there's incredible history of that. And so this opera takes on, and there's references to Martin Luther King and so on. And, so here you have this opera at the Lincoln Center, amazing spectacle, and it's Bloomberg's money. It's one of the Bloomberg projects. And so the irony of Bloomberg supporting Satyagraha, which is about civil disobedience and, et cetera, just seems it's too good an opportunity. So I proposed that at this meeting, and hopefully, something could happen. But it's that kind of thing where you can point up. I mean, what I love about Occupy is just shifts your consciousness. Everything looks a little different, and so you can have these ideas with this new sort of gaze. Not that many people share this. That's why it's so, I think, popular and taking off. And you can do it, and nobody's being left out. I mean, it was very intense down at the park because you have so many people gravitating and trying to create situations that can take care of the people who need to be taken care of. And they were getting people to work with a certain level of need and desperation and so on. So there are all sorts of. And at one point in one of the meditation circles, a kid came over and he said, "I've been living here for 2 weeks, and I've never sat with a meditator, so I want to know how do you do it and what's going on. He said, I'm having a lot of trouble with the current map. I mean, this is a very Black and Latino thing over here with the drumming. The white intellectuals are up there with the reporters and the, Democracy Now! And this is going on there, and I don't know where I fit in and belong, and I'm starting, nobody's getting along, and on and on. I said, well, just, sit with us and chill out. So, it's so huge. It's interesting to see where it will go, and I think anybody here can participate in, whatever way. I mean, Ed Sanders talks about this, and tithing your time, just tithing your time in some way towards a very exciting flip of view, shifted to view. And they're scared of us.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm involved, now Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets, and Bloomberg just gave a grant. So I got an email, we got some money from Bloomberg. And I'm thinking, okay, what can we do? How can we also point up the irony of this? He's trashing books, poetry books down at Occupy Wall Street. Patti Smith provided some kind of little shelter at one point. But anyway, they were, trashing the books. So here's a guy supporting the Academy of American Poets who's also sending cops in to trash poetry books. And just thinking, putting up the little discrepancies and ironies. Yeah.